very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How, then, am I mad? Hearken. I don't know how the idea entered my brain, but it haunted me day and night. I didn't have passion, he never hurt me, and I didn't want his gold. It was his eye, the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye. When I saw it my body got cold, I needed to take the life of the man. At this point I feel mad. I entered the room with caution, with dissimulation I worked. I was never kinder to the old man than that week before I killed him. Every night, during midnight I opened the door and made an opening to peep. I used a lantern with a cloth, so no light was seen. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. Upon the 8th night I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern, when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. I knew what the old man felt, and I pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he was lying awake since the first noise. He had turned in his bed. His fears had been growing inside of him. He was trying to comfort himself, but it was all in vain. Death was stalking him with his black shadow before him. He didn't feel anything, but he felt my presence in the room. I knew the old man was scared. I heard his heartbeat get louder and louder. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leapt into the room. He shrieked once only. Then the time had come. I stabbed him in that horrible pale blue eye. I then smiled gaily, to find the deed so far done. But, for many minutes, the heartbeat went on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At last it ceased. The old man was dead. I examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would no longer trouble me. There was no blood, no stains. I had been very careful. There was a knocking at the door. I went to open it very calmly, as I had nothing to fear. Then it entered a man that introduced himself as a police officer. The neighbor heard a shriek during the night, so suspicion roused. The police were ordered to search the house. I had nothing to fear, so I welcomed them. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man, I mentioned, was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search. I took them to the old man's room and showed them his things. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room, and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manners had convinced them. They sat, we chatted, they talked of familiar things. But I felt myself getting pale and wished they would go. My head hurt and there was a ringing in my ears. But they still sat and talked. The ringing became more clear. I talked louder, but it continued to get louder and louder, until I realized that the noise was not in my ears. It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I talked quickly, but the noise kept increasing. Why would they not be gone? I started walking and I was furious, and the noise kept increasing. It grew louder and louder. The men continued to chat pleasantly and smiled. I couldn't believe that they didn't hurt. Anything is better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now again. Hark! Louder, 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 villains! I shrieked, dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Here up the planks. Here. It is the beating of his hideous heart.